do suspect that the Democrats and Liberals will return to the Skills Development Fund. I mean, I would, as opposition leader, right, you look for these types of issues that play to the underbelly of a government, and the risk of any party when they're in office now, the third consecutive majority, is accusations of cronyism or, get too comfortable in power. So you got to guard against that. But look, I really think you can put this not into an offense, but you can get off your heels and stop playing defense. Again, I will reiterate, an essential job in the Premier's office is what I call the hard ass. Picture a political equivalent of Mr. Wolf from Pulp Fiction, where Mr. Wolf was the cleaner. You go in there, you look through all the decisions that were made. Where did they differ from what civil servants had recommended, and can you actually justify those changes? Look, the politicians are held accountable for the spending at the end of the day. So I do think ministers should have discretion if it hits priorities that they have set or the government has set, but you really need to justify it. You need to make sure it is clean. And if there are issues of malfeasance like is alleged in the story around the OPP investigation, then you go after those. You go after those hard. Sadly, a fund that large has been around for so many years, can be a target-rich environment. You really got to de-risk it, and you need the cleaner in there to clean it up.
Keith, the final one of the lines in the story, the results of the audit received last week recommended that the matter be referred to the OPP. So this is actually happening outside of political offices. Absolutely, and that's what needs to happen in these sorts of situations. My fear is, of course, we've seen other things referred to the OPP, and then they wait a year and hand it off to the RCMP, or nothing ever comes of it. So I don't know what's going to come of this. The government is very vulnerable here, it seems to me. I mean, just the appearance of the cash for access, it just seems a straight line, and it's a circular economy with those same recipients and donating back to the PC party. This particular one, though, the minister himself, the Labour Minister, who oversees this fund and who picks the winners and losers, essentially, not the civil servants. The criteria are ignored, and the lower rating applicants are being approved and getting tens of millions of dollars in this particular case. The minister is so closely tied to this company, the lobbyists for this company. The appearance is just really, really bad at this point. There's just no two ways about it. The minister should be forced to resign, but even if he is, and I think this is why Premier Ford is sticking with him, it won't resolve the overall issue. The government is going to have to explain their criteria, explain why they ignored the higher rated applicants to go to these lower rated applicants who all appeared to have either hired lobbyists that were former staffers at Queen's Park for the Progressive Conservative Party, or still have ties to the government. So the government's got a lot of explaining to do here. But in this particular case, where it's been referred to the OPP, the government didn't have a choice here. It's not like the government referred it. This report said this should go to the OPP. The government has to call in the police. But as I say, I'm not confident in the police turning up anything that's going to be of any help to us, at least not in time to deal with this. And, the next election is 4 years away. I'm not confident the OPP will have something for us by then. But to be clear, Kathleen, when this audit is talking about irregularities in terms of the accounting of the company that received the grant, it's not necessarily anything to do with connections to the minister. It wouldn't necessarily have anything to do with the otherwise scandal going off the side of his desk right now.
Right. But I think, that Tim talked about having to make sure that these connections and the companies that you're dealing with and those relationships are with companies that are clean. I think that, that is really important, especially in this situation, as Keith said, where recommendations from the civil service have been ignored. So the government has said, we're not going to do what's being recommended to us. We're going to make our own decisions, put those decisions in the hands of the minister and who knows else, who else might be there, the Premier's office, whatever. But we're going to do that, and we're not going to do the kinds of rigorous checks that need to be done. So I think it's another layer, and you're right, Dave. It's not about any kind of criminality necessarily. We don't really know, but it's not saying that there's any criminality that has anything to do with the government. But it is another layer on the lack of due diligence and the lack of care that was taken in distributing these funds. So I think it's an ongoing problem for the government, and again, paired with the other things that this government has done, whether it's the Green Belt or whether it's, the appointment of the head of the OPP, whatever it is, this government seems to operate within a system of its own connections and people who have an inside track. So that's what this attaches to.